Murphy. By the way, a very interesting story about Murphy. He was shot 9 times, 9 years prior to right after getting into a car accident and another life-ending experience, right? Which, again, speaks a lot to the durability of LaRon Murphy being shot in the neck, in the face. I want you to put that in perspective, okay? Because that is LaRon Murphy in a nutshell. And man, that is the craziest thing I have ever heard. But at the same time, I tell you what, it is the reason why he is a world-class fighter. Now with Josh Emmett, what's crazy about this guy is that he was a cop, or was trying to be a cop. And by the way, I've trained with that team around Josh Emmett, TJ Dillashaw back in the days, Chad Mendez, Uriah Faber. That is what Josh was trying to do. He was trying to be a cop. So, yeah. He was trying to be a cop, and why isn't anybody talking about it in that kind of way, right? Maybe it's just not an interesting storyline, given the fact that they both come from 2 different worlds. Also, the fact that they're not really trash-talking each other in any kind of way, right? There's not a trash-talking scenario going on with Murphy or Emmett. It just seems like one of these fights where they're trying to get on with it. They're trying to get to the next level. And they are trying to just win the fight and not really take any of this personal. Now, that could be. But I think I like to create storylines, right? Because you look at all these cards that are being pumped into you every week, week after week after week, these UFC cards, you start to notice a bland feeling, like it's just a bunch of regional fights or this and that, and there's a good reason why you are thinking that. There is a good reason why you are thinking that these fights are getting bland week by week, and it's by design, because what they are trying to do is saturate content due to the fact that they were given a contract with ESPN to put out a certain amount of content within a certain time of the year. So in other words, the motivation for ESPN was to build a library. And as such that they built a library, now they have content to push out all year round, right? They have content that they own. But I think ESPN now, maybe, they are starting to second guess, what is it, what is in it for them? What is in their best interest staying with the UFC? Is it really helping in any kind of a capacity? That is the question that ESPN has to ask itself. And as such, UFC also has to look for different partners, which, by the way, leads me to the conversation of Wrestle-mania 41 and UFC 314. Now, I found it really interesting that the dates between those 2 events are 1 week away from each other. And I think there's a design behind that. And if you think otherwise or disagree, you let me know in the comment section below. But obviously, I think they are accommodating for each other, because guess what? We are in an era where the UFC and WWE are now one and the same. They are the same company. They may work in 2 different competitive fields, one being professional wrestling, the other being professional mixed martial arts. But they are operating in a decompartmentalized manner that allows them to be a separate company as traditionally as what we would know it to be, but also a company that is holding traditions to what we know as the competitive architecture of martial arts in the UFC, for whatever that means. Because now, you would probably imagine that this would push a much more entertainment-driven level agenda when it comes to picking #1 contenders and championship matchups. And that is really the reality of the UFC right now, as it is in a relationship with the WWE. Going into UFC 314, I think that it's really interesting that we got Diego Lopez as the #1 contender, and deservingly so. He's been knocking everybody out. He's been taking out the top contenders. He deserves to be in a position where he's at. With Volkanovski, I'm a little bit skeptical, because I'm going to be honest with you, the one guy that I wanted to have the title shot for the 145 division here was Movsar Evloev. What did my man here say? Can you share your thoughts on why you think Bill Cosby is innocent? Dos Hermanos says, Subhanallah. And Love Bug says, can you share your thoughts on why you think Bill Cosby is innocent? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if he's innocent, man. You know, I don't know if I would absolutely take that. Yeah, I don't know if I would take that position. Bill Cosby, it is not far-fetched that he would absolutely do that. You want to know why? Because Bill Cosby is a powerful man who, by the way, has leverage over these people. And you also got to understand that when he reaches a certain age, when we all reach a certain age, you're not exactly going to be the biggest Casanova out there, right? So you have to try underhanded tricks in order to get your way with whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish in those terms, right? And that's exactly why it's not far-fetched that Bill Cosby is guilty, because many people of Hollywood status of his time, conducted themselves in that same kind of manner. What did he say here? What is more powerful in the black community, Bill or Diddy? I'm going to say Bill Cosby, because what P. Diddy encompasses is only the, let's say, hip-hop mainstream, anything hip-hop related, and then on top of that, maybe even the support of some gangster factions around the United States, right? Because let's not forget that P. Diddy once had affiliations with the Southside Crips of Compton back in the Biggie and the Tupac beef days. So let's not forget that. But when it comes to Bill Cosby, what he encompasses is the mainstream level that the majority of black folks can look up to. So in other words, if you have people that are, let's say, how do I say this, the cock-calling type, you know, they're going to be supportive of Bill Cosby because he speaks for the mainstream version of the black community, and as such, many people are going to take up that position. So yes, I think naturally it is only right to say that Bill Cosby has a lot more pull in the community than P. Diddy does. Which, by the way, leads me to the segue of Conor McGregor, for example, right? He has a lot of pull in the MMA world. Now, he is extending that into the BKFC world, but I think there's a part of grand delusions that is going on with Conor McGregor at the current moment of time, saying that he's going to win and become the president or the prime minister of Ireland, depending on what is their insignia called to their world leader over there, right? So does Conor McGregor have a chance to win? My skeptic eyes are immediately going to say no. But at the same time, who am I to say no if you look at the current president that we have right now for the second time, having a 45 and a 47 to his name, be able to do it twice. A man with his background and his popularity and his richness was able to get him to the White House. Why not somebody like Conor McGregor? Well, the only pushback that my skeptical eyes has on that matter is the fact that Conor McGregor is not a trained politician in any kind of way. I don't even know if he's a trained businessman or has anything to that effect. What I do know is that Conor McGregor, like most hyper-aggro males, are very impulsive with their emotions, as am I, which is why I would never ask of myself to become a world leader, because that position should be held by somebody who has a high emotional state of mind and a good conscience of the best interest for everybody that he serves. Now, the problem with that particular scenario is it doesn't fit Conor McGregor in any kind of way. So that has to beg the question, does this man really deserve to be where he's at? So let me hear what he has to say here. Great insight. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Asking because I'm not from America. Okay, shout outs to Love Bug. Let me know what part of the world you guys are from while you guys hit the like and subscribe button as I give you guys some of the most honest takes there is in the world of MMA, in the world of geopolitics, and quite frankly also in the world of everything else that deals with violence. So here it goes, right? On the title, I mentioned send 2 to 3 years in Dagestan and forget. And by the way, don't forget to like and subscribe, because we are also going to talk about the main event between Josh Emmett versus LaRon Murphy. As a matter of fact, hold on just a second. So where were we? Yes. Send 2 to 3 years to Dagestan, forget. Why is this phrase popular? Because a lot of people now are starting to realize that when it comes to MMA, you really need wrestling. There's no ways around it. I've known many people all throughout my years of training and being in some of the most top-level gyms in Sacramento, is that the main thing that people hate the most is like what you normies and bodybuilders like to say, leg day, right? Don't skip leg day. Well, what is leg day in wrestling? What is leg day in MMA? It is wrestling. It is the leg day of MMA, and by goodness, you definitely need your legs in order to perform in a wrestling stance, to constantly get low in positions and being able to shoot in on somebody. This right here is a consummate reality of what you need to do in order to be successful in MMA. Can I list the names that sort of fit that bill? Okay, George St. Pierre, Matt Hughes before him, and then after George St. Pierre, it was Johnny Hendricks. After it was Johnny Hendricks, obviously it was Robbie Lawler. He sort of has a brawling style that was evolved from being a seasoned mixed martial artist. And then after that, you move on to Tyron Woodley. After Tyron Woodley, it is once again a wrestler, Kamaru Usman. So wrestling is one of the main focal points of MMA if you want to be successful. Let's see, Lovebug says, Speed is transitioning to MMA. Do you think he will do well? Speed. Oh, okay, you're talking about the streamer Speed. Well, I tell you what, I think question, and I'm going to tell you why that's a great question. I'm going to give you a great intake, a good take on that particular matter. I was going to say intake, but yeah, I guess I'm going to intake the question and eat it up and, yes, give you my take on the matter. I don't know. But okay, so when I look at Speed, the streamer that you are talking about, I say to myself, wow, you know what? This is an extremely athletic kid. So to answer your question, Lovebug, does Speed have a great transition to MMA? I would say yes, just based on the athletic ability alone. Now, here's the thing you got to understand about MMA, right? MMA is a sport where you can literally get away with a lot if you are athletic. okay? If you are athletic, you can get away a lot. You can get away with a lot of technical mistakes in MMA. So why do I say that? Well, take for example Francis Ngannou. He obviously learned wrestling. After Francis Ngannou learned wrestling, he then was able to show a lot of his knockout power. And as a result of being able to show his knockout power, he was able to have a mistake cleaner. What do I mean by a mistake cleaner? Meaning that if he makes mistakes on the wrestling, he gets taken down continuously and he gets even out jabbed or out kicked in the fight. This Francis Ngannou he has that bomb, right? So it's always good to have that one weapon that you can rely on in a fight, especially if, let's say, you are outmatched in a technical matter. Now, when you look at Speed, he obviously lives up to his name, right? I saw him in a video. Now, I don't know how real or how fake this is or how much of a work Usain Bolt was putting in, but he actually did very well against the fastest man in the world. So this is an extremely athletic kid. So can he make it into MMA is your question. My answer is yes. He's extremely athletic. If he can use his mind and his speed to go along with the techniques that he is learning, he's going to be a very dangerous opponent for many people. And let me tell you, by looking at Speed, maybe he could fight in the 125 division. That's great. You know, maybe we'll have somebody for Pantoja to fight who is at a celebrity status level, and then all you would really realistically need is have him fight 2 or 3 real top pros, and if he does good, he obviously advances. But that's all depending on if you are his manager or how long you would want him to develop or slow down a bit. I guess the choice is yours in that particular matter. He said that he trained under ATT after his tour. He will train with ATT. That is a great team to train with. Now, the age-old question, which kind of brings us into the 2 years at Dagestan and forget conversation, right? The age-old question, is it better to train with a team that is a big name like that, or is it better to train with a team that is smaller, a smaller gym, but mainly focused on you and your development? Because there is a difference, okay? Training in ATT, they're going to have a lot of guys that are fighting in the UFC, that are fighting in Bellator, that are fighting overseas, that are fighting in regional shows. They got it all. They got it all. Asking where, that's, I'm not even going to answer that. But I think that the focus is not going to be mainly on him. At least not with the top coaches. Think about it. Look at Matt Brown. Don't you think that Matt Brown, the top head coach of ATT, he's going to have his hands full with different fighters and different implications of rankings, different implications of their regional careers and things of that nature, right? So as a result, it's going to be problematic for Speed in getting attention. What I would have recommended for Speed, if I was his manager, is say to him, hey, you need to train with a gym that is going to be mainly focused on you. Or you know what, better yet, here's what you do. Use all the money that you have, because you would imagine that obviously Speed is a very rich streamer, right? This is why we know him. This is why we are talking about him. Real Band Kev asks, what are you? I don't understand what the question is. But what I am is I'm a Muslim, so that's the best way I could really put it. I'm a Muslim that has martial arts experience and has a YouTube channel that talks about mixed martial arts and everything in between. So, yeah. Yeah, not to get off track, but what were we talking about prior to that? Oh yeah, the attention that Speed gets at ATT. Okay, so he's not going to get a lot of attention in ATT. What I would tell him to do is hire a bunch of fighters and a bunch of coaches, make them coaches, and on top of that, hire a nutritionist and a team that is living with you and that is mainly focused just on you. That's your team, right? Training with ATT is great. Obviously, it's great for beginners. He's going to get a lot of different looks in there, but then you got to think, is that going to damage him, or is that just going to give him the fastest wake-up call that he needs if he wants to fight at the highest level? Because he's a very athletic dude. Make no mistake about it. And remember, athletic dudes in MMA can get away with a lot. It's what I call the mistake cleaner, right? They make a mistake, there's a cleanup crew to follow up, which is usually their knockout power, or in this case, his speed, i.e. speed, right? Hence the name of the streamer. But I am located in California, my man. West Side, California. But on any regard, the main event between Josh Emmett and LaRon Murphy. Look, I think Josh Emmett has a lot of wrestling. Okay, very good wrestling, because it's one of the things that we emphasize out here in Sacramento in Team Alpha Male. So for those of you that are wondering where I am, right? I wonder if the wrestling is going to be too much for LaRon Murphy. Now look, LaRon Murphy can kickbox. He's got good, well-rounded skills as well, right? I really believe that he can do a little bit of everything. But will the wrestling of Josh Emmett be too much? And that is a question. But yeah, for those that wonder, Josh Emmett wanted to be a cop before, right? This is the thing. There's a lot of people that are in a certain demographics that, let's say, are more supportive of cops than the other, right? Let's just be honest about that. Like, for example, if you live in a certain neighborhood where it is gang-ridden and things of this nature, the cops are going to look at you in a certain light and are going to sort of view you as a threat in some kind of capacity. And as such, you're going to be treated in that particular matter. And while being treated in that particular matter, you're going to grow resentment and distrust towards the police force or anybody that is around you, right? That is of authority figure of that degree. So, of course, naturally, you're not going to trust cops. You don't want to be around them. You don't want to talk to them. And then on top of that, you definitely sure as heck don't want to join them. Now, Josh Emmett, obviously, he grew up in a different environment, right? He grew up in Sacramento, but he was a law-abiding citizen like most people of that particular demographic. So they feel the need to serve because, let's be honest, right? Why is it that the majority of the armed forces or the police force are of a certain demographics? Well, let's be honest. Their ancestors were the ones that sort of forged this land in a way of building its government and building its system. And as a result of that matter of fact of being, you know, the inheritors of that system that they created, they feel the need and compellingness to defend it. And also service it, which is why the majority of people that you see in the armed forces and in the police force are of a certain demographics. I mean, I'm sure that's not really groundbreaking for a lot of you people, right? What did he say here? Why did Dana punch his wife in public? I don't get it. Love bug. That's a very good question to ask. Why did Dana do that? Well, here's the thing, right? there's a lot of things that go on behind closed doors with many of your favorite athletes. I swear to you. This is something that I know and understand being around PR media and things of that nature, and being around you mainstreams, professional sports, not just MMA. Being around all of that, there are things and famous people do behind closed doors that would shock many people. I swear to you, that is the God honest truth. But what happened with Dana White happened in the public eye, denounced to him whatsoever. So understand the difference, okay? Dana White really had no idea whatsoever that all of that was going to happen. He had no idea that he was being recorded. So you can say that Dana White got exposed. You can say that Dana White got lucky or unlucky. The bottom line is Dana White was in Mexico, granted, in a place where maybe a few people can recognize him, but then again, he's such a famous figure in the world of MMA, he is MMA. Let's be honest about it. Dana White is MMA. To say anything less is really a disservice to Dana White's reality, okay? So with that in mind, he got away with it. He got away with it even by being exposed. Why do you think is a great replacement for Dana once he's retired? Who is a replacement for Dana White once he retires? That's a very good question. I would have to say that it has to be a fighter, okay? It has to be a fighter that is going to be unbiased to everybody. You got to understand that. That is the main thing that you have to take into consideration here. Biased. Because if they are biased to any degree, I think that it will compromise the competitive architectural integrity of the UFC. It really will. It will affect its reasoning of matchmaking, and not only that, it will affect the careers of others that would be unfair to the competition field at hand. So yeah, so let's try to understand it from that particular perspective. So more talk on this particular matter at hand with Josh Emmett and LaRon Murphy. So I remember that one LaRon Murphy fight with Zubaira. That was in the Dustin Poirier versus Khabib card, if you guys remember. Not to be mistaken with the Islam Makhachev card, okay? Not to be mistaken with Dustin's recent fight with Islam, but with Khabib in 2019 in Abu Dhabi, okay? And I remember that fight very well. So as a result, that fight ended up being a draw. But prior to the fight, I got to tell you, I was really excited for it because I'm looking at this and I'm like, man, look, you got these two real gangster type of dudes in MMA. Zubaira, a Chechnyan, Dagestani gangster, and then you got LaRon Murphy, who is this British top boy looking type of figure come to real life in MMA. Sort of like the quintessential reminder of Lee Abraham Murray. You guys remember that guy? That guy was an absolute psychopath, okay? That's who LaRon Murphy, I'm not saying he's a psycho, but he's a gangster, bro, and it's very intriguing to see a guy like that in the UFC. So yeah, him and Zubaira went to a draw, and I think it kind of shows the well-roundedness of LaRon Murphy, but it also shows the type of level of pace that he is willing to operate in just so long as he can coast, right? I think, I don't know, man. It kind of reminds me of someone who's a bit of, a fighter who likes a coast type of fighter. Let me read what this says right here. They're more likely to be biased due to the controls of share owners and owners. Okay, are DDP married to his coach? Lovebug says. DDP, no. I think that, yeah, he does a lot of suspect things, which, by the way, I think is just within line of his culture. It's not to say that he is homosexual in any kind of way or leans in that direction. Not at all, right? But to the Western mindset, it's absolutely not something I would do. I'm sure that if you're from in that same mind frame, it's not something that you would engage upon. But when you are this guy, this is what you do. They look at it as normal. They don't look at it as GAY in any kind of way. But I don't know. For me, I think I just wouldn't do half of the things that DDP does. So, yeah. I don't think he's married to his coach, but he certainly acts like it in a certain degree. But okay, so check this out, right? I think this fight with Emmett and LaRon Murphy is going to go 5 rounds. Now, who is going to win those 5 rounds? Listen to this. It's all going to be predicated on who the judges are going to be that night. I swear to you, that's how the fight is going to go. It's going to go to a judge's scorecard. I think there's going to be a lot of even scenarios here. Although I do see a knockout scenario, but only for LaRon Murphy. Because, Josh Emmett, I mean, he's been, put down a few times, and LaRon Murphy, not really. I would send both my kids to Dagestan for 5 years and forget, Chris Rain says. And you know what? And if you do that, I think that they would come back a whole lot more proficient in wrestling. And I think that part of their game will absolutely grow in high exponential levels. Right? Now, depending on how they maintain that, obviously they may come back to America or Europe or whatever part of the world you're from, and then they continue to develop that with different training partners and people that sort of challenge them in different avenues, such as jiu-jitsu. Now, here's the thing about jiu-jitsu that I think I really find fascinating. Obviously, there's a culture of jiu-jitsu that you see out right now with Craig Jones doing all of these things that are really suspect. And then you got situations where you got, what do you have here? You have, you now have the UFC sort of involving themselves in grappling competitions via using the UFC Fight Pass app. Right, where they host the majority of their grappling fights. So now that has become an avenue for jiu-jitsu guys to go pro and make money. But at the same time, it's also given other UFC athletes a different avenue to compete in without the UFC's permission, because they allow you to do grappling competitions, but what they don't allow you to do is to have full-blown fights like Muay Thai or boxing unless they can help it and make money off of you, right? Or they sign off on it. So, Lovebug says, why is Israel engaging in bestiality? Man, I don't know. The Israelis have to, answer to that. After he getting exposed by Satan, he's gone downhill since. Yeah. And how about Kanye, right? A little side note, to talk about Kanye here. Here's something interesting that I could fill in about Kanye. He's getting canceled by a lot of people for displaying that particular symbol, right? And rightfully so. At the same time, what's going on with Kanye is that not only is he pissing off the minorities, not only is he pissing off people of the blue flag persuasion, okay, he's also pissing off white nationalists that stand on that particular symbol. I mean, if you think about it, him wearing a swastika is a disrespect to the Nazis. And you know what? I think that he does see it that way, but I also think that he uses it as a way to slap in the face of the little hats. I think that's really the best way to put it. That's the reason why he does it. To antagonize, but not only to antagonize, but to also I guess in his mind, take power away from the symbol. But yeah, I think that he's offending certain white nationalists, because think about it like this, right? It would be similar to if you were mocking a gang member based on their persuasion, their ideology, and their swagger about them, right? Like, in other words, mimicking their manners to a certain degree. So, yeah, think about that. We got about probably 20 more minutes. We'll go for another 20 minutes or so. Maybe do about a full hour of this stream. You know, talk about a wide range of things in the world of MMA and in the world of professional boxing. Now, obviously, I try to fill in and talk about every subject that I have on the description. So we're going to talk about Wrestle-mania as it's been written on the description, right? So Wrestle-mania. I was born on the same day as Wrestle-mania. Wrestle-mania 1, right? That's my exact birthday. Okay? So, like everybody else, growing up in the 80s, born in the 80s, raised in the 90s, we were all wrestling fans, right? Hulk Hogan, DX, 1-2-3 Kid, and then NWO. The list goes on, right? We all are wrestling fans. And then what did he... speedy recovery for John Cena. Oh my God, look who's on again. Darren Young. Yeah, shout out to Darren Young. So, okay, so back to the WWE talk now that Darren Young is here. So speaking of John Cena, I think that it's great that he decided to become a bad guy. And I'm going to be honest with you, this is really what got me back into wrestling, because prior to this, I stopped watching wrestling for a good 2 years, right? Because there was just too much MMA going on. And then on top of that, now I have decided that I'm going to cover MMA full-time on YouTube. So now it's like there's no room to delve into professional wrestling. But you can't talk about the business of the UFC without acknowledging WWE, and that's really all there is to it. Who's your favorite wrestler? Darren Young says. My favorite wrestler of all time? Well, you know what? I'm going to have to go with Brock Lesnar, because obviously he's an MMA guy. On top of being an MMA guy, you know, he was my favorite guy in the mid-2000s, I'm sorry, early 2000s era. I mean, if you think about SmackDown, right? And you think about how they marketed it back in the days, Brock Lesnar would be in the covers and this and that, and you would think, man, you know, this is a freak of a human being, and then he's beating The Rock, and then he's beating Hulk Hogan, and they're putting him over, right? So, again, it was very exciting times. They sort of like marketed him as this, you know, Mike Tyson, young phenom type of figure. I like The Undertaker. Yeah, The Undertaker is cool too, and Kane. So yeah, man, I think John Cena ultimately brought me back to wrestling on that March 17th Raw episode. I saw that and I was like, you know what, man, this is the John Cena that we needed. And you know what? During the Vince McMahon era, Vince would have never pulled the trigger on John Cena being the bad guy. How do we pronounce your name? Kyrie Abu El-Kheer. That's the best way to put it. So Kyrie, like Kyrie Irving, and then Abu El-Kheer. Hope that's easy to remember. But yeah, I think that it probably brought a lot of fans back because, once again, Vince would have never pulled the trigger on John Cena being a bad guy because he was too comfortable with John Cena being the good guy. Okay, so while John Cena was the good guy, it was easy. It was very easy to just, I guess, live off of that money. All right, like, yeah, where he's a good guy, that's great. We can just keep going off of this and not have to worry about taking risk. I mean, he's great for the kids. All the kids buy his merchandise. In this era, they're like, no more. We're not going to have none of that anymore, right? We're going to have John Cena as the bad guy. We're going to let John Cena speak the way that he wishes to speak, and let's be politically incorrect about it, right? More of like the street wigger, version of John Cena. That's really the best way to put it, right? Raw, uncut personality that we brought out. And you know what? It was a great reflection that he's trying to put upon the audience. Because let's be honest, right? A lot of people out there are very negative about other people, about their circumstances, about other people's life circumstances. And that is literally what John Cena's message is between these storylines. And I think that that is Shakespearean brilliant to the max. Do you see Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler ever coming back? I know that Dean Ambrose has not been in the WWE for a long time. I know that he transitioned over to AEW, and he's made a career there. So, I don't know if he'll come back. But as for Dolph Ziggler, I didn't even know that he left. Last time that I watched, before John Cena became a bad guy, I thought that he was there, so I never knew that he even left. So remember, I'm just coming back now as a, a newfound wrestling fan, or somebody that has refound it again, for lack of a better term. But yeah, all right. So all raved combined. This is an Amish Muslim. He says, an Amish Muslim, all raved combined. Both of them dispute with Vince races. They're not coming back. Yeah, I agree. They're not coming back. But once again, I think without, now that Vince is gone, I think that the creativity went up. Because what Vince was trying to do was just coast the entire time. He thinks that because many of you, like myself, who was literally born on Wrestle-mania 1, okay, thinks that he can just capture those fans without really trying hard. Now you look at Paul Levesque, Triple H, Stephanie, all these new people, all this new blood that's in the WWE with their new writers, all these guys, they really want to try and create the best story possible. So if there's any more great stories that you guys want to share, I got about a little over 15 minutes more before I sign off and make it a complete hour with you guys. So we talked about WWE, we talked about UFC 314 briefly at least. We talked about this weekend's upcoming fight with Josh Emmett and LaRon Murphy, and a little bit of their backstory and their history and things of that nature. So what else is there? Dana White, we talked about Dana White and some good questions about Dana White and why he did what he did, especially with that infamous video in Mexico. Strawberry says, I'm going to donate $500. Oh man, that would be awesome, man. That would be great. But if you're going to do that, I want to be able to earn it, right? By talking about the best subject possible to really get this going. So now, okay, so we can talk about why the WWE ultimately is going to affect the UFC in terms of matchmaking. I think we've sort of talked about that, where entertainment is always going to trump over title shots. And even before all of this Saudi era, even all of this WWE era of the UFC, there's one thing that's always guaranteed. Oh, let's talk about Wes Watson. Okay, we could talk about Wes Watson in a minute. I understand that he's in serious trouble right now, right? I think that's the one thing that we can learn from Wes Watson is sometimes we got to learn to be humble. Because if there's one thing that Wes Watson wasn't, is that he wasn't humble. Not by a long shot, right? Like, he's one of those guys that really took the success to his head. And I think that it inflated his narcissism into a level that made him unrelatable to many people around him. But also it made him a huge target due to the fact that Wes Watson talks a big high power. Okay, but if you want to talk big high power, you got to be able to constantly prove it. Now look, there are others out there that know me in real life out here in Sacramento. No lie, I go and talk that high power. I'm like, man, whoever wants it, wants it. I'm ready for a fade. I'm ready for war. I'm ready for anybody at any time or any type of capacity that they want to bring to me. But you know what? Understand this. The man who stands on business all the time is the man who's not worried about people constantly attacking him, because he is the one who attacks first and leaves questions asked later, and that's that, right? So in other words, he gets the business done and everybody else just has to sit back and wait until somebody goes and violates them. Well, Wes Watson talks all that high-powered stuff, but in reality, he's the one that gets violated in every capacity there is. Okay? What did Darren here say? He said, Finn Balor, a completely sideline, if I'm correct. I don't watch WWE regularly. Same here, Darren. I'm not sure either if Finn Balor is out. I think he has a very important matchup going on, but I don't know, man. I would think that's crazy. You know what? Here's the thing with the WWE, right? They do crazy stunts all week long. So that means they do it in Monday Night Raw, they do it in SmackDown, and then you got to think, maybe at some point you got to really go and conserve yourself for, the main shows, like the main pay-per-views, the main Wrestle-manias. There has to be a level of preservation in some kind of way. But I don't know, man. I just feel like the UFC has, the WWE just runs their wrestlers down to the ground. Or maybe they do something different now that Triple H is, yeah. Lovebug says, ONE FC is better than Bellator. Do you agree? You know what? There's a reason why ONE FC is great in Asia and why it does great in Asia. They're very unique. Okay, obviously they have a sizable Asian audience within that region and a big American hardcore martial arts fan base as well to consider. Okay, with that said, they are better. I wouldn't say, yeah, I'll say they're better than Bellator, because Bellator at best just looks like a regional product, that has some stars and occasionally some competitive fights. And that's really the reality of that. Whereas ONE FC, it's a lot more creative. Obviously, they mix in Muay Thai, cage kickboxing into the mix. So there's a lot more to offer. And not only that, it sort of complements the traditional martial arts competitions of Muay Thai in Asia through their innovations of a cage and even with MMA gloves, which makes it even more exciting. So they have a much more exciting, dynamic organization in that particular regard. So I think that they are unique and different in their own ways. What does he say here? Chatri matchmaking. You have to defend your belts even against your own team, maybe. I don't know about that, man. I don't know if Chatri is that extreme with it. I know Dana is sort of extreme with it. At some point, he wanted to get Josh Koscheck and Mike Swick and John Fitch to fight each other. At some point. Yeah, they wanted to have them fight, but you know what? They never really get teammates to fight. I mean, there have been a lot of great teammates that fought, and I got a Chad Mendez. I'm sorry, not a Chad Mendez, a TJ Dillashaw and Cody Garbrandt story for you guys. So stay tuned. Hold on just a second, okay? Need to get a few things done. I'm going to keep the stream going. Stay tuned. All right, so back to your questions. Chatri matchmaking is great. Okay, yeah, we talked about Khabib or Islam if they both have to fight, because that's a good question. I'm gonna say that Khabib is the better grappler. He's going to grapple Islam Makhachev. Although Islam Makhachev is the much more well-rounded fighter, the overwhelming wrestling of Khabib is going to outpower anything that Islam is going to do. So in other words, yes, Islam Makhachev has better looking kicks. He has better looking boxing than Khabib. But all of that, honestly, will not help due to the fact that Khabib's wrestling is just so overwhelmingly good. And as a result of that, I think that it's going to be very difficult for Islam Makhachev to even get up or try to have any offense of any kind. So yeah, it would be very difficult, I would say, for for Islam to defeat Khabib? But that's a very good question. I know that it's a question that not a lot of people would like to entertain because, quite frankly, if you ask Khabib or Islam themselves, they're going to tell you that they'll never fight each other. And I think that's good. Look, going back to the question earlier about Chatri matchmaking in a way that sometimes he makes you fight your teammates, or I don't know, you're going to have to confirm with me to those that are a lot more tapped into, let's say, ONE FC, right? Khabib will never do that. It's a loyalty thing, right? So the other age-old question is, what about Bilal versus Islam? Okay, those guys will never entertain that fight whatsoever. Understand that, right? That fight is never going to be entertained in any kind of capacity whatsoever. And reason being is because, look, take this into consideration, right? Bilal may come from a different world than Islam, but the fact that they train together, they know that the reason why their success is predicated on what they were able to do to each other in a training room. That's it. So that alone is going to give them loyalty and a die-hard motivation to never fight each other. So there are just some fights that you can't make. But in the meantime, you judge a man by what fights they are able to take. So speaking of which, I think breaking news, they mentioned that Jon Jones is willing to vacate for Tom Aspinall to finally be crowned the undisputed champion, right? Because he's been waiting for so long. And he said that he's also willing to come back and face the reigning champion when he comes back, if he comes back. John has taken us for a ride, if you think about it. Harsh says Jon Jones is scared of Tom Aspinall. Look, so he certainly is. He absolutely is scared of Tom Aspinall. Let's not make any bones about it anymore, okay? There's no doubt about it that he is, because he knows that Tom is dangerous. We know that Tom is dangerous. We as hardcore fans and people who even train the sport, or people that know people that are in the sport or in the know of everything that's dealing with the sport, understands that he is a dangerous opponent for Jon Jones. And for Jon Jones to say otherwise is just face-saving mechanisms to try and make people forget. That's really all there is to it. So, with that in mind, who is Tom Aspinall going to face now, right? Now that Tom Aspinall doesn't have Jon Jones to worry about, who does he need to worry about next? Right? Who is his next fight? Because let me pull up my laptop here just so I can pull up some information. Obviously, I'm doing a vertical stream on YouTube right now, so by the way, guys, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button as I talk more about the Jon Jones situation, which, by the way, is groundbreaking right now. When is Khamzat's next fight? Well, Khamzat's next fight is predicated on when Dricus du Plessis' fight is next. That's really all there is to it, because they promised Khamzat that he was going to win this fight. I'm sorry, that he was going to get this fight. And it is just up to Dricus now to answer the call. Paradox says Khamzat. Okay, well, I mean, that's your own interpretation of things. You know what I mean? Trying to make a light of Khamzat's name, Khamzat. Sorry, guys, just making a thumbnail for this live stream that I'm not doing right now. He pronounces it Hamzat, I believe. Yes. And you know what? Magomed, just so you guys know, Magomed in the Dagestani dialect means Muhammad. It's like another way of saying, yeah, Muhammad. So just so you guys know. When Patty's going to fight a ranked fighter with a good ground game? Well, Michael Chandler is definitely the quintessential test to that. Although Michael Chandler doesn't like to wrestle as much, although I think that he would benefit a lot from doing so with Patty. But at the same time, Patty is absolutely dangerous on the ground. Okay, and that alone I think is going to present a lot of problems for Michael Chandler, right? So that's why I'm not surprised if, let's say, this fight ends up on the ground and he gets submitted. I could see a scenario where he gets submitted here. I'm talking about Michael Chandler. Yeah, he'll definitely get submitted in this fight. So make no mistake about that. Especially with the sloppiness that he may indulge in the ground, meaning that he's going to really do a lot of sloppy things, right? Because again, he doesn't really, at least in the recent times, hasn't really focused a lot of his wrestling in here. But again, it's always in his back pocket, so you never know. All right, so now we're gonna change the thumbnail to this live stream. Chandler seems a bit too worn for grappling now. Yes, Paradox. I think Oliveira f's up his knees or something. He looks hella old in that fight. True. Chandler prefers to stand and bang. Very correct. He doesn't care about winning or losing, just winning on bonuses. Old and rusty. Yes. Yes, great observations, both Love Bug and Paradox on that one. Definitely. Here we go. All right, now we got. Okay, now we got the. There we go. Now we got the thumbnail on and cracking with this one. So yeah, everybody, continue to hit the like and subscribe button. And let me take a look at the details here. What else did we talk about? Yeah, so 2 years and forget main event, UFC 314. Yeah, let's take a look at UFC 314 here, okay? Volkanovski. Oh. All right, so UFC 314. What does scissors mean in fighting terms? What does scissors mean in fighting terms? I'm not sure what context you mean. Like, if you mean like in a ground position or what. Okay, so let's take a look at this card with Murphy. What is the location to this card? This is going to be in Miami. Okay, so that's why Cedric Dubas is in this card. Michael Olajochuk, Sue Mujari, Mitch Raposo, Treson Gore taking on Marco Tulo. Okay, quite an interesting card. Nora Corneli taking on Haley Cowan. We're looking at the Dan Ige. How about Dan Ige taking on Sean Woodson, a very tall 145er, right? it's going to be an interesting matchup because Dan Ige is a grinder, right? Sean Woodson is very tall. He's going to look to use that range in this fight. We'll see how that pans out for him. Jan Jojan taking on Verna Jandaroba. Okay, that's an interesting matchup. How about this? Jim Miller. Jim Miller's still in this against Chase Hooper. That's a good fight. That is a good fight. Darren Elkins, Sacramento's own Darren Elkins taking on Julian Erosa. That's a good card. These are good cards, man. These are good cards. Chase Hooper, Jim Miller, Darren Elkins, Julian Erosa, Dan Ige. And in the main card, obviously, you got Nikita Krylov. Okay, somebody to really look out for in the 205 division. What happened to Ariani? Are you talking about the ring card girl? I don't know if you're talking about a ring card girl or a fighter. Let me know in particular who. Jeff Neal taking on Carlos Prates. That's canceled. I think Carlos Prates is going to be in a Kansas City card with Ian Gary. Yair Rodriguez taking on Patricio Pitbull. So the age-old question, right? Does coming from the Bellator, being a legend and a championship fighter over there, how does that translate over here? Obviously, Michael Chandler also in this card set to sort of, prove that particular notion as well. Patty Pimblett, 20, and a ring girl. Yeah, I don't know. I don't keep up with them. But obviously, Alexander Volkanovski and Diego Lopez, we had just talked about. So this week, obviously, we have Josh Emmett taking on LeBron Murphy. What is in the co-main event? We got Pat Sabatini taking on Joe Henderson Brito for the featherweight division. Okay, so Cortavius Romanos taking on Lee Chang Hoi. Kennedy Njechu, okay, a ranked heavyweight now taking on Martin Buday, 14-2. Martin Buday looking to get a ranking out of this fight right here. Brad Tavares, here's a good one against Gerald Mershot. Torres Finney taking on Robert Valentin. That's a good fight right there. Adi Osborne taking on the undefeated Luis Guruli. So that's an interesting fight. You got an undefeated prospect taking on the veteran Adi Osborne. And then what do you got here? You got David Grant taking on Daniel Santos, bantamweight division. Diana Belabida taking on Diane Barbosa. Reese McKee, how about this? One of Kamzat's first fights in the UFC taking on Daniel Frunza. Luma Lubikimi, I believe this is a Thai fighter. Yes, this is a Thai fighter. So interesting, right? One of the first few Thais to actually make it in the UFC, which is interesting because they made Muay Thai, but Muay Thai doesn't always translate well in MMA. Obviously, this is a Muay Thai type of fighter right here. So let's see how she does against Isla Nunez right here. This is going to be an easy win for her. Isla Nunez is a 50-50 fighter at best. Let's see where she is coming off of here. Let's see. She fought Molly McCann. It's been on a losing streak as of late. So obviously this is Luma's fight to win right here. So what else is in this card? Let's see here. Okay, we went over that. Okay. Victor Henry taking on Pedro Fialco. Okay, Arion. Okay, Arion. Maybe that's what you meant by Arion. Is Dale Doy in this card? I don't think so. Vanessa Demolapis opens up with Talia El-Kheer. 5-1. Good record. Vanessa Demolapis here. Let's see where she is coming off of. Oh, okay. Born in Cleveland, Ohio, of Greek heritage. 11-6. Just coming off of an armbar loss. Had a split decision win against Emily Ducati. lost a unanimous decision against Carolina. So, okay, another split decision. Okay, so this is a fighter that really puts herself in a lot of, you know, she only really lost once, right? Never been knocked out. So this is going to be a very hard fighter to knock out right here, right? Itinke Poop Slimov. I don't know who that is. Let's see. So the problem child, El-Kheer, undefeated, or no, just 5-1, just coming off of a unanimous decision loss against Stephanie Luciano. Let's see where Stephanie Luciano is in her career right now. Oh, wow, look at this. Her picture is like her dripping blood and just... Okay. All right. So she's got a pretty good record as well. Yeah. You know, with women's fights, there's a lot of them that are 50-50, but then there's also a lot of them that are just a mismatch, but the mismatch also kind of proves they don't really have a lot of finishes. So, yeah, man, that's all there is to it. So, okay, so we shared that card. We shared Wrestle-mania. You know what? Let's look at what is the Wrestle-mania card right here. Wrestle-mania 41. Let's take a look at the entire card for this one. There's obviously 2 days into it. Background, broadcast outlet, storylines, undercard matchups. Okay, so Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens, night 1. Okay, so that's a good match. That's a good opener. Roman Reigns with Paul Heyman taking on CM Punk and Seth Rollins, triple threat. Cody Rhodes and John Cena, undisputed matchup. That's in, okay, night 2. That's in night 2. All right. They don't really have any definitive matches here. That's it. That's the only thing that they have to be announced. Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany. That's going to be announced when? Okay, Gunter and Jey Uso. The night they're going to announce that. They're still trying to figure that out. AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. Okay, so they're trying to figure out if that's night 1 or night 3. Okay, so the only thing that they really have definitive for the main event is Randy Orton and Kevin Owens night 1, and Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins in a triple threat. That's really all they have that is definitive, right? They don't, but everything else they put to be announced, right? So they just decide on the last minute if Charlotte Flair should be in night 1 or night 2, Jey Uso should be in night 1, night 2, or Logan Paul should be in night 1 and night 2. They decide that later on, or whatever they see fit. So that's interesting. Okay. All right. So yeah, look, once again, I think that I'm very impressed by the new WWE regime, because obviously they are a whole lot more edgier now. They decide to take a lot more risk, and John Cena being the bad guy, I mean, how can that not be entertaining? But with that regard, guys, that's all that I really have for today. I didn't want to extend this any further. This is all that I have. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next live stream, next video, maybe even next workout sessions. You guys know that I put in some serious workout sessions here on my live stream while talking about MMA, just to kind of separate myself from the other MMA streamers out there doing something different, doing something innovative, and doing something that they don't normally do on a daily basis. But with that in mind, don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. I will see you in the next one. We'll talk more about the next subject and the next matter at hand. I'll see you in the next one, inshallah.